We hate to break it to you, but John Wick's no longer an action film. It's moved on as an epic action film with stylish cinematography, action choreography, and of course, Keanu Reeves. But now, with the upcoming Chapter 4, the John Wick franchise is showing that it's in competition only with itself. So let's see what makes John Wick 4 different from just an action film and what got it there. First off, John Wick 4 is not an action film, it's an epic. After the upteenth installment of the Liam Neeson genre of revenge thrillers, we might have retired the action thriller film for a decade at least. But John Wick not only revived it, but also blew it up in a pretty neat thriller. That was 8 years ago. If there's one thing John Wick can't do, it's stopping. The character is always moving, and so is his storyline. But it's not always been this way. For one, the first film, despite its fancy lighting, a pretty menacing yet tormented assassin-turned-avenger story, had a simple revenge formula. Over the next two sequels, however, it slowly tested waters and opened itself up to darker depths of human psychology, societal apathy, and themes you'd find at home in psychological horror. And it's managed to do just that, reaching epic proportions with each installment. With its fourth installment, it's showing signs of The Matrix, Clint Eastwood, Greek mythology, and several other themes. So far, the trailers seamlessly spun all this together in scale, showing it rather than name-dropping it for the audiences. Just like the infamous pencil from John Wick 1, then the franchise is turning more intelligent, focused on its storyline. But it's still as deadly as a pencil, capable of bleeding, stabbing, and killing, all done slowly and painfully. Now for the franchise slowing down. Action is usually seen as a short fuse. Once lit, it's a quick succession of slick action moves that'll see it to the finish line. But director Chad Stahelski's not too keen on keeping to a fixed formula, even if he's fond of action films. His idea of action is a refreshing blend of the best westerns and psychological horror, and just like we're fans of John Wick, Chad has his favorites too, which he draws inspiration from when making Chapter 4. It's martial arts meets hints of The Matrix, and it blends together effortlessly in the trailer for Chapter 4. Following up, John Wick 4 has samurai blood in its veins. The director revealed that John Wick's truly gone global and started off with Japan. For Chad, scouting set locations takes him to places like Jordan, Texas, and Tokyo. But the film's Japanese roots are deeper than possible set locations. Instead, samurai history is a key inspiration for the film. Even if it gets to mean seeing Keanu Reeves in a style-busting kimono, we're all in for it. But there's more to it than costumes. Not to mention, samurais too have a history of revenge action. Samurai action obviously has a lot of significance in literature and films. The latest film to pay tribute to the samurai in the modern context is Chapter 4 of John Wick. From including swordplay in Season 3 to the motorcycle chase sequence featuring a short sword, the sharp edge of modern action combined with the traditional classic samurai promises to be a heady cocktail for sure. The reflection and thought required in sword fights are particularly heightened as the fight moves on from the streets to the high table, with John Wick having to rely on his wits as much as on his skills. Here, each step counts, and each precise swing of his sword will matter more than 100 random bullets. Up next, Chapter 4 adds Greek mythology to the mix. Despite the many superhuman ways John Wick has inflicted damage on his opponents, he's still got to go to the bureaucracy like the rest of us. In the John Wick universe, that means going through the high table. John Wick is becoming a bit of a modern myth himself, but another classic myth lies behind the idea of the high table, which has taken on a recurring role in the franchise. Also, Zatoichi pointed to the high table as a reference to Olympus, or the city of gods. Certainly, the power wielded by the alliance of the godfathers of assassins can match up to the myth of Olympus. They're titanic figures who can be cruel but are always just. They might be sadistic and sarcastic at times, but they honor their promises. Beyond Reeves's demigod looks, the character too has the aura of the Forsaken Son, and while he's a needle in their sides, he's also somewhat of a favorite child. It'll be interesting to note how much of the odysseys of gods and myths will compare to Chapter 4, but you'll agree with us that more is certainly less here. Not to mention, Chapter 4 will be paying tribute to the westerns. Whether it's the desert or the skyscrapers, the Desert Eagle or the pump-action shotgun, John Wick has shown no signs of stopping when it comes to terrain or weapons. Similarly, its influences are just as wide-ranging. The latest addition to its arsenal of influences is the beloved Western action thriller. A lone assassin, a pet dog, a dedicated family man with a deceased wife, ruthless against villains, sharp action moves, and even sharper sarcasm? No, we're not describing John Wick. At least not just John Wick. Any Clint Eastwood film from the 1970s could be used as a reference for the description. In Chapter 4, director Chad Stahelski promises even more inspiration from the westerns. Taking it even further in the western direction, the trailer showed a horse chase through a desert, but the proof's in the pudding, in this case in the trailer. Fans certainly think it's a lot, and they aren't obsessed with the influences as much as John and Winston's bromance. But as Chad would himself agree, movies are made for the audiences. It's certainly not lost their interest. In fact, it got the fan boards bustling with questions. Enough talk, let's jump into the action on Reddit boards and check out the biggest questions fans asked after watching the trailer. Coming up, what's John Wick's personal life going to look like in Chapter 4? John Wick's become a household name, so his family life's bound to be a question on everyone's mind. The fans are particularly restless about the possibility of John Wick's family having a seat on the high table. Which side of the family, his or his wife, has members on the equivalent of the White House of John Wick universe? It's fitting that the film started with the family breaking up. John Wick's journey as a family man moved him to hang up his outlaw career, and then again, family dragged him back in. It'll be interesting then to see how his family will either rescue or put him in greater torment in Chapter 4. Speaking of family, John and Winston seemed to be back after a rough patch. Fans can breathe a sigh of relief, as this bromance was everyone's favorite, and it seems it's back to being buddies for the two. But even the best of friendships can crumble after the stuff these two have been through. It's surprising, though, to see this after Chapter 3 showed Winston apparently betraying John. Was that a betrayal, or was it a test of fire that strengthened their friendship even more? When the trailer's creating so many questions, you can bet it's good. Following up, is the original cast in for a major shakeup? A trailer can't be a runway walk of all the cast members, but there are some names missing that fans found particularly questionable. For one, the adjudicator, played by Asia Dillon, is neither in the credits nor in the trailer. She might feature in a flashback, but it seems her role, or at least Dillon's reprisal, is no longer on the books. Another character missing from the trailer for Chapter 4, but featured in the credits, is Scott Adkins. It'll be interesting to see what he brings to the club, and his absence from the trailer only increased our excitement to see him on screen. While there were absences, there are also more characters who've come on board. In particular, the shot of a woman in a vest for a brief second, previously unannounced, could be an interesting character addition. Another addition buzzing the Reddit boards is Donnie Yen, whose character's still in the shadows after the trailer, but his MMA chops are a welcome addition to the gritty realism of the Wicked universe. Finally, can the movie be able to catch up to itself? The movie's spun off in a multiverse, and slowly but surely it's ascending the ranks in terms of influence. But each film opens doors to several films worth of cliffhangers. While it all makes sense, there doesn't seem to be an age limit to John Wick's acrobatics. We certainly don't mind seeing more of it, but fans are wondering if the realistic approach by the film will also lead to some kind of conclusion for our untiring hero who can't seem to catch a break ever. And that's the end of this video. If you've got any questions on your mind after watching the trailer, do share them with us in the comments below. If you like this video, do press the like button. For more content like this, subscribe to our channel by pressing the bell icon. See you in the next one.